Hey, how's it going, everyone? My name is JT the Talking Head. You are the audience, and today I've got something interesting to talk about. I got a movie, a new DVD called Collection Questions. This is a movie by one of my buddies named Roger Arthur. He's known online as 4K King. You can follow him. I'll put his links in the description to his Instagram and his TikTok. And he made a little documentary about us. When I say us, I mean us as physical media collectors and why we do what we do. So I sat down and watched this, and I have some notes. So before I get into any notes or criticisms, I do want to go ahead and let everyone watching know that Roger is 17 years old. This is his first ever outing. It's very, I think, admirable that he has wanted to make this film about film collectors and members of our community between Film Talk and FilmTube, TikTok and YouTube. And I think that it being his first outing and he is so young, he's entitled to make mistakes. Every first time filmmaker is going to make mistakes. And there are some mistakes in here, just for full honesty, but I think that it's very admirable and it's cool. And I really like the concept of of collection questions, but there are, like I said, some pitfalls to it. So I'm going to try to be as constructive with my criticism as I possibly can be. I don't want to, like, the last thing on earth that I want to do here is to turn Roger off to making film in the future, or to make him feel like he shouldn't be, doing this or doing TikTok or YouTube or whatever he wants to do. I'm a personally a big advocate of taking talented young people and cultivating them and building them up and making sure that they have the tools and utensils to do what they want to do in this life. But you can't sugarcoat everything, and criticism, I feel, is important. And unfortunately, or maybe fortunately, depending on how Roger takes this video, there are some things about this to criticize. But in the interest of being honest, I'm going to try to be as fair as I possibly can, and I'm going to give some notes and maybe some tips for any of his future projects that he may do. So overall, like I stated with collection questions, I really love the idea of this. I just feel like the delivery of it isn't there. So what is collection questions? Essentially, what Roger did here is he reached out to a bunch, and I mean a bunch, of film talkers and film tubers, and asked them questions and had them record their responses to those questions. And then he took those responses and compiled them into this film. Roger calls this a documentary, but notice that I do not call it a documentary because I feel like it's been misrepresented and mislabeled as a documentary. Really, what this is a hour and a half long Q&A with a bunch of really talented people, who have a lot of really good views on film and physical media. So there's nothing wrong with that. I just think that it's kind of a mistake or a reach to say it's a documentary. The reason that I refrain from stating that it's a documentary is because overall, there's not really any narrative here. When you're creating a documentary, it goes further than just straight up documenting your subject. You're creating a narrative, you're telling the story of that subject. So collection questions doesn't so much tell the story about the people who are collecting or even the reasons to collect, um, as much as it just asks some questions and then gets some answers, and it's delivered in a pretty straightforward way. It's a little bit, I hesitant to call it dull, because there were times where I'm like, oh, that person had a great point. A lot of my friends are in this film, and I'm was really glad. I was kind of like Leonardo DiCaprio in that scene in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Whenever somebody that I knew popped up, I was like, oh. And so that was really entertaining. But overall, if you're trying to make a documentary, I feel like you need to write a narrative so you can morph the film around that narrative. That's something that collection questions unfortunately does lack. Instead of asking questions and having your guests record their answers and give it to you and just um, put it together into a video, I would try to make it more segmented. In this film, each guest appears only once. They're asked one, maybe two questions, and some of them are showing off their collection. Some of them are answering, like, what's a movie that you walked out of the theater in? And then they're gone. They're never to be heard from again in the documentary. So, what I would recommend is maybe have a pool of questions and segment your the way that your documentary is flowing. So whenever you have, say, a couple people that are mainly steelbook collectors, put those people together with the steelbook questions, and but also give them other questions that are not steelbook related in general, so that way they can appear later on at a different point in the documentary. Another thing is, I feel like Roger needs to be more present during the direction of each of his little, what I would call a vignette, or would be the technical term, I guess. But really, it's just the question being answered. Maybe instead of just giving, like, texting them the question and having them send you the answer, maybe get on a video call. I feel like Roger should be more, should have been more present in the documentary. He should have done something in a way to maybe narrate, to tell the story, or actually be on camera more and set it up like an interview. Maybe the way that the questions were almost shoehorned in, to where you're just texting these people these questions and then they're filming their reply to these and sending it back to you, and you're putting it together, cobbling it together. It feels like there's not really a lot of cohesion there. Half the time I had trouble figuring out what the question was that these people were trying to answer. So, you know, you could fix that simply by putting, the like a title card with the question before the person answers it, or you could put the question in white text over their video, what have you. It's a pretty simple thing to solve. But overall, I think that without that, because a lot of people, some people had the forethought to repeat your question, but some people just jumped straight into it, and it just kind of made it lack cohesion and be a bit confusing. So, because of all this, the film doesn't flow well. And I'll tell you what I believe is possibly the biggest issue, and it's that Roger has too many guests. He has this entire mountain of film talkers, film tubers, and people involved with physical media that collect in this film. I texted him earlier today and I asked how many people are in this movie, and he said approximately 50 to 60. Now, on one hand, that's admirable that he, as a 17-year-old first time filmmaker, was able to gather the support of 50 or 60 people who were involved and content creators to do this. That's very admirable. I will admit that 100%. But it's too much. You're prioritizing quantity over quality. That's not to say that any of the guests that you had in the film were not quality guests, but it's rather to say that if you had less guests, you would be able to prioritize the timing with each guest more. Their time would be more valuable. So if you condensed it, and I'm talking about really condensing it, at max 15 people, and give them the story that you want to tell with your documentary, that I think it would flow a lot better. You just have it too congested. And some people's questions were answered in 30 seconds, while other people's questions were answered in 5 or 6 minutes. And so it was a roller coaster of timing, and it just didn't flow well. And it was too crammed to really have a chance to breathe and to tell any kind of information or narrative that you as a filmmaker should be trying to portray. So this is getting into the technical aspect. Now, this is DVD. There's two ways that you can get this. You can buy it on DVD or you can buy the digital. I have a copy of both. I have not currently watched the digital version yet, so I don't know if there's a difference in quality, but I have to say this. The quality on this DVD was bad. Like, and I'm not trying to be rude or mean. I'm just trying to be honest here. Um, even for DVD. I don't know how you got the videos from these people. I don't know if they sent it in a Google Drive or if they uploaded it privately to YouTube and you screen recorded it, or if they sent it to you somehow, some other way. I'm not sure, but whatever you did, it felt like their video got compressed to a almost unwatchable size. And then this putting it on a DVD compressed it even more. So I don't know if the digital file will have less compression or not. I suspect it'll have about the same because the digital file size is around 4 GB, which is pretty standard for the DVD. I'm not sure what happened there, but the visual quality was just not there, bud. I'm sorry. It needs to be something that has a lot more focus into it. Um, there needs to be more quality control because some some people were filming horizontal, which is what you're supposed to do in a film like this, but then some people were filming vertical, and I don't know if that was because they were unaware that this was for a feature length like film, or if they thought it would be something for TikTok or what. But there needed to be more communication so people knew to film sideways, horizontal, and landscape mode opposed to portrait mode vertically. And like the thing is too is that these people are all content creators, so like their quality when they upload to YouTube or TikTok doesn't look like that. It's not super pixelated. It was a lot of people's video was very pixelated with this. Even I believe it was AV Collecting, his video, I don't know what was wrong with it because when he did the little interview segment where it looked great, like he had good lighting, he did really good depth with the background blur. It looked like an actual like professional lit documentary interview style show or film, but the frame rate was choppy and slow in it, and I don't know. These are all technical quality control things. The audio as well was something that was an issue. Some people you had trouble hearing. I know that you had mentioned before that you had trouble with one person's audio and you ended up including it in the bonus features, and because it was so bad that you had to cut it from the actual film. But to be honest, there was a lot of other people's audio that were not on par for a release like this, like a physical media release or any release that you're charging money for. I just I don't know, man. I hate to harp on it so hard. I really do. Please believe me. I don't want to discourage you or anything, but it was just not great. Um, so I'm sorry about that. That's really my review of collection questions. I don't want to leave this on a downer note. I want to try to give you advice. So I told you before, and I told you bluntly, when I get my copy of this, I mean, I paid my $17 for this, including shipping. I'm going to review it and I'm going to be honest, because I really feel that as an upcoming filmmaker or a future filmmaker, you need to have criticism in order to stand on your own 2 feet, even if it's mostly negative criticism. So I'm not going to leave you with criticism and not give you advice. I've looked at this film from a consumer standpoint, a collector standpoint, a community standpoint, and a filmmaker standpoint. I was 18 years old when I made my first short film. I've made quite a few since then. I'm not a great filmmaker. I don't consider myself to be anyway. But I've learned a thing or two over my time in the business that I've worked in and doing content creation on YouTube and TikTok for a very long time. I've been doing YouTube for 15 years at this point with various other, a lot of video games and skits and stuff like that. I've been around the block. So, what I would suggest to you is to reach out to other people in the industry. In our little community, we have writers, directors, documentarians, producers for independent films. Reach out to some of them, and not in a way of, hey, do you want to work or collab on this? Just look for advice. Reach out to somebody that made a documentary and be like, hey, do you have any advice of how I can structure a narrative around doing this? How I could write this? How I could direct this? Um, just look for that. Search out help, next time. Um, Speaking of next time, my final piece of advice would be to wait for next time. Be patient. Dude, you're still in high school. You're about to start your senior year as far as I know. It's very impressive that this even got off the ground. I want to make that clear. It's very impressive that you were able to do this, that you've made the contacts you've made, that you've done a physical media release, and you have a great solid idea here. And I hope eventually you'll do a sequel. I really do. But wait on it. Focus on your school right now. And then while you're doing your school, focus on honing your craft. Focus on your TikTok, on your YouTube. Make that content all the better. Make sure that you are putting all this creative fuel and effort into making those videos the best they can be, and make yourself a better filmmaker by doing that. Get more creative and exploratory, because at the end of the day, you're not charging people money to watch your TikToks and your YouTube videos. So you can afford to, let's be blunt, you can afford to fuck up. But you're asking people to pay money for this, dude. And to me, I'm not going to say one way or another if it's worth the money. I don't think that's my place. I think it's subjective. But when you're asking people to pay into something, to spend their dollars on something, you need to make sure that it is going to be worth it to the majority of people who buy into it. So yeah, that's about all I got, man. I didn't want to be super negative on it, with especially without providing you insight and notes and maybe possible ways of how to you know, fix or improve or whatever your arsenal of creativity. So I really sincerely hope that this review doesn't turn you off of it. I'm just trying to be honest with you. I'm just trying to help you. I really don't want to be the bad guy in your life story who crushed your hopes and dreams, because I realize you're only 17, dude. I've been there. I've done that. And I want you to know that it is, I still find it super impressive. And I know a lot of people find it impressive that for being in high school, juggling high school with anything alone, if you're in sports or anything like that, dude, it's crazy admirable to do that. But you're juggling high school with making a movie, dude. Been there, done that. It's hard work. And, it doesn't always hit. My first film, major flop, dude. So everybody gets one or two passes. Yeah, that's about it. If anybody out there watching would like to go ahead and buy this, I can give a reason to buy it, and that would be it's not very expensive. It's only $12.99 and like four something shipping, and it will help support a member of our community, a up and coming budding filmmaker. Um, just be warned about what it actually is that you're buying. Um, like I said, I think that this has been kind of misrepresented or mislabeled as a documentary. It's more of just a hour and a half long Q&A. But I mean, it is fun to sit there and see a bunch of familiar faces that we're watching the content of, and a lot of people we know. I feel like most people that are going to buy this are already in the community, whether it be on TikTok or YouTube or Instagram or whatever. So it'll be a fun romp to look and see your friends talk about their collections. I'll leave the link to collectionquestion.com in the description. If you guys want to go and order that, you can. He has it available physically and digitally. There is also I'll leave the links to his Instagram and his TikTok. I don't know if he has a YouTube actually. If he has a YouTube, I'll leave a link to that as well. But yeah, so go follow 4K King either way. Just because this one, Knit Chief, King makes a lot of really cool content on his TikTok and stuff. He's one of my favorite content creators personally. So I really hope that he uses that to get more creative and expand his content and keep at it. So, yep. See ya.